I'd like to say a few things about why we're out here today. We're out here today because the city has conducted a relentless campaign of harassment against the homeless, illegally confiscating people's property, as was shown in a court case here where the courts just recently upheld the Illinois Homeless Bill of Rights when police tried to take away their personal property. We have seen sweeps right down here every Friday starting a few weeks ago and supposedly going through the middle of October. These sweeps done under the guise of cleanings are nothing short of harassment.
That's right.
We've seen the wipeout of the Stewart School tent city, again by the city, favoring private developers, basically giving away a public pedestrian mall so they could clean out the homeless. And we have to say that this cannot stand, that we are going to be out here, we're going to be marching, we're going to be demanding until this illegal, unconstitutional harassment of the homeless ends. That's our first demand. The second demand is extending full funding to preserve our existing low-income housing stock. We've lost over 1,000 units of SRO housing in this ward, more than the rest of the city combined under our current Alderman Kappelman. And that's got to stop. We have got a shelter right over here at 941 West Lawrence, which for lack of a mere $100,000 for the entire fiscal year 2017 will close down unless someone makes up the gap. And yet we've got $15.8 million slated to go to wealthy luxury high-rises, and yet they can't come up with a mere $100,000 to keep a shelter open for an entire year. That has got to stop.
That's right.
We need the city to not only stop the destruction of low-income housing options, we need to expand the housing options. And for those such as Greg Hines, with whom I had a little email exchange this afternoon, it's, oh, you can't do this. I say, bullshit. Because the reason why we got developments like Lathrop Housing and others around this city in the 1930s was because people demanded it, and they forced the resources out of the wealthy, and that's what we're going to need to do, because we've had a few decades now of destruction of low-income housing. We need to build up the low-income housing stock, because not only will low-income people benefit, everyone who is part of the 99% will benefit, because when you destroy low-income housing stock, you basically, it's market capitalism, okay? Many more people chasing fewer units, everyone's rents go up. So when you hear about the destruction of CHA housing and they try to tell you it's those other people, red, poor, and black people, say it's bullshit, because we all suffer from that. All of our rents go up.
That's right.
We've got to end public funding for luxury housing. It is an insult that a few hundred yards away from these tent encampments, they're proposing to give $15.8 million to luxury high-rises, where one bedrooms rent for $2,000 a month. It's ridiculous. Finally, we've got a phony democracy in this ward. Totally phony.
Yes.
And one of the things we need to begin to correct that is for the zoning committee, the zoning and land use committee, to not be packed with a bunch of wealthy white owners of property. We need to reflect the diversity of this ward, which is poor people, it's middle income people, it's black, it's white, it's Asian, it's Hispanic. We need to reflect that diversity in our ward. So, I'd like to bring up one of Uptown Tent City's principal organizers and also a member, active member of Northside Action for Justice, Ryan Polker. For those of you in the media, that's P-O-E-L-K-E-R, first name R-Y-N-E.
Hey, let me
All
hold
right.
your sign. Let me hold your sign.
All right.
I'll hold your sign for you.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I think we have quite the contrast with what's going on over there at the empty Cuneo Hospital and what's happening over here. On the one hand, the city is taking things away from people who need the most. And on the other hand, they're giving $15.8 million to people who need the least. The rich are getting richer, we're all getting poorer. There's a transit district where developers are getting tax breaks for building new upscale housing. We see time after time TIF money being used on upscale projects that raise the cost of living in communities, not lower it. And meanwhile, we have a homeless shelter Andy brought up that only needs $100,000 to stay open. Northside Supportive Services have pleaded with the city, pleading with DFSS, if you can give us just $100,000, that will keep our shelter open. Well, what's the holdup? They spend that much alone on the cleanings every single week to throw people's items away and to push out the homeless. They spend more on that than they could on keeping a shelter open and keeping more people off of the streets. Our alderman spends more money on flower planters than he does on keeping homeless shelters open. There's something wrong with that. Now, when people turn on TV and they hear Donald Trump, I want you to remember that Donald Trump is not an exception to the real estate industry. Racism, class hatred, disrespect to working class people are all endemic in real estate developments that seek to push out low-income communities. You only have to listen to Kappelman's donors talk for 5 minutes to know that they are a pack of bigots that hate poor people, hate homeless people, hate black people, hate working class people when they stand up and defy their authority in society. So that's what we're doing here. They want to take people's items. They want to take people's tents. They want to give money to luxury housing developers. Well, we're going to take this fight to Alderman Kappelman's office. We are going to set up a picket line outside of his office. We're going to set up tents in front of his office, and we're going to fight back.
All right. That's right. That's right.
Thanks, Ryan. I'd like to now have one of our Tent City residents, someone who's seen the police and other city harassment, speak on her own behalf about what's been going on here. Please welcome Maria Murray. Is Joseph here too? Couldn't make it. Okay. Well, Maria's going to say a few words about what's been going on.
Hello. Hello. My name is Maria Murray, and I reside with my husband under the Lawrence Viaduct. I am a homeless resident under the Lawrence Viaduct. I live there with my husband, and currently the first and foremost thing on my mind is our only shelter from the elements is being taken away. It's a tent. I know for y'all it's not too much, but for us it provides safety, it provides some privacy, some dignity, as the current system in place to help those who need a hand up and not a hand out is just not there. I believe that information and revealing the truth about the current state of our shelter system is very important. And I believe information is key to shedding light to the city's spending their true intentions, not harassment and chasing the homeless people away essentially to another completely undeveloped, overstressed area of the city, just so they can say the problem has been solved. The real solutions need to be in place. There needs to be an evaluation of who are the homeless. And I believe and I still hope for a mutually beneficial resolution to this situation that is not just for me, but for many of the residents under these viaducts is absolutely necessary. We're talking about a life and death kind of situations without tents. So I'm here to support the effort to raise money for the tents and to just further this very complex issue. So thank you.
All right, very good, very good.
Thank you, Maria. As she said, this is indeed a life and death issue in the city. For all its promises of doing something to help the homeless, its phony 75-slot pilot program, which has turned out to be a joke on its own terms, let alone the terms of what's truly needed. It's up to us, because the city is not doing its job. So when you see the gentleman going around with the T-shirts in the bucket, please give generously, even if you don't want a T-shirt, because that's going to keep people warm this winter when the city isn't doing its job. So next, I'd like to invite a pair of our friends from Black Lives Matter Chicago, Ainsland Poley and Kofi. Kofi has worked in a shelter in the past for over a decade. They know something about police harassment far more intimately and personally than I do myself. And we're so happy to have their solidarity here today. Please, Ainsland, share your thoughts.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, so before I left out to come here, I saw an announcement that was made by CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union, that Rahm Emanuel is firing 250 more teaching professionals
That ain't
today.
right. That ain't right.
Last week, he made the announcement that he was hiring 1,000 more police. Continually, we see that the city mysteriously doesn't have money when it comes to the things that people actually need to survive. Somehow, they don't have money for the $100,000 necessary to keep the shelter open, but they found $15 million to build a luxury high-rise. Somehow, they don't have money to keep our schools open, but they have money to hire 1,000 more police officers. This is a political problem. This is not a financial problem. When they say they don't have money, they are lying.
That's right.
And so I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to stand here with you all because we have taken it for so long without rising up, and now we are at a moment in our history in this city and in this country where people are saying no more. Within the last 5 days, 9 black men and boys have been killed by police departments across this country. This is what our tax money is going toward. It's not going toward housing. It's not going toward education. It's not going toward healthcare centers. It's not going toward mental health care centers, but it's going to increased weaponry and increased militarization of police forces all across this country. Chicago spends over 40% of its budget on policing. How much does it spend on shelters?
Nothing.
You got any other jokes?
Nothing. Almost nothing. Do you know that in one day, and Andy can correct me if I'm wrong, but in one day, CPD is given $4 million, which exceeds the annual budget that the city allots for shelters in the entire year. In one day, CPD gets $4 million to murder and harass and torture our communities. This must end. This has to end, and we will keep fighting until we force the change that we need to see in order for our lives to prevail and in order for our lives to actually matter. Because right now they don't. Right now, black lives don't matter in this country or in this city. Right now, working class people's lives don't matter in this city or in this country. Right now, homeless people's lives do not matter. They are disposable to this administration. And we will not allow this to continue.
We will continue rising up, continue marching, and continue forcing these corrupt politicians out of office until we are able to implement true systems of justice.
That's right. That's right. All right.
All right. My name is Kofi Ademola. It's Kofi-Ademola. First and foremost, housing is a human right. We get that, right? We understand that, right? Food, shelter, clothing, these are essential for us to survive. Now, this city talks about crime. We've had over 500 killings in this city, right? But it never talks about the causes. It never talks about how it comes out of poverty, how it comes out of a desperation, how when you close 50 schools and over 6 mental health clinics, how you take away resources from our communities. Now, I've had the opportunity to work with young people coming in and out of shelters. And the one thing I can say is the little resources that they do have, they're getting services around therapy. They're given a sense of safety. They're given a space to feel love. And these things are essential for people to prosper. But when you take this away from people, you leave people with very limited options. When you put people out in the street trying to hustle, trying to survive, what do you expect is going to happen, right? So we have to fight for our homeless. We have to fight for our most marginalized. We have to fight for our most disenfranchised because they are a reflection of us. If we don't uplift and love and center the people that are most vulnerable, then we have to look at ourselves. Now, this isn't a moral issue because the city and these capitalists have showed that they don't care. There is no empathy. In fact, I call them psychopaths because there is no love and compassion for people, especially people of color, especially poor people. So this fight is one that we have to convince our brothers and sisters that they have to take up because it's us, power to the people, that's going to make this change happen. But we can't do this alone. We need each and every one of y'all to step up. We go to work, we do things, we take care of our friends and families, but we have to say we have a bigger community we have to take care of because our people are hurting right now. And when you kick a person while they're down, you leave them no choice to fight back. How the hell are you taking tents away from people? How the hell are you pushing them out when you already took away homeless shelters? That just doesn't make any sense. To me, it's an all-out war against poor people. It's happening all across this country, and they get mad when cities burn down. Well, what the hell you expect people to do and how you expect them to react? So let's march, let's stand up, and let's keep the pressure up. Don't let this go away. It is too much going on, too much at stake. We got to stay together. I love y'all.
That's right. We love you too.
Thanks, Kofi and Aislinn. And as Aislinn mentioned, 40% of the city's operating budget goes to cops. Did you know what just one of those cops will cost for the first year? $147,000 for salary and benefits. More than enough to take care of the shelter, just one of these cops, over at 941 West Lawrence Avenue. And by the way, our city, according to the FBI in 2014, has got the third highest cop per capita ratio of any city, over 50,000 people in the United States. And yet they want to hire more cops? My 2 cents. I'd next like to ask Kim Jeffries of Northside Action for Justice to come up.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My statement
Right up to now.
is short and sweet. I live not very far from here, and 10 minutes from now, I could be out here with these people. I don't know how they do what they have to do, but they manage. I would not like to be in that position. Would you?
No.
Would you?
No.
Therefore, I feel for them because I don't even know how they survive. Basic human rights should be adorned on everyone. No questions about it. That's it. That's all for now. Have a great evening.
All right. Well, we intend to.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, we're getting ready to march here.
One thing is a human right, not just for the